So shall we start? This is the drama of the world of life. All kinds of forces are there. So here, sleep, here mingling in man's heart. A few lines above the one we have to start from. Here, mingling in man's heart, their tones and hues have woven his being's mutable design. His being is man's being. Their tones and hues, the opposites, the forces of different expressions that are part of the world of life. As always, when you have a drama, the drama requires the play of opposites. Always. There has to be light versus darkness, there was good versus evil, right versus wrong. Then there is a clash. Then there is a solution after the clash. That is the pattern of every drama. Life is a drama. So, that was in the Middle Ages one of the aspects of teaching through plays. Teaching, they are known as mystery plays, passion plays. Passion doesn't necessarily mean strong, violent emotion. Passion has its roots in the word suffering. So through the plays of the forces of pain and suffering, something of the purpose of the creation, because unless we have gone through suffering, we will forget to yearn for perfect joy. If we only feel just a simple joy, there is no change. The joy of being, which is there in nature, it's beautiful. But that joy of being which is there in the flower doesn't yearn to be other than a flower. But man passes through different experiences. Sometimes the pressure of pain, of suffering, they crush his nature, and then the aspiration, the yearning comes to come out of this. So this is part of the medieval teachings. Miracle plays, mystery plays, passion plays. It was all through drama, because most people did not know how to read and write in that time. So many of the teachings were put in the form of the early plays, which was played in the, you might say, in front of the church. There's usually something that is a bare space. In that bare space, this was enacted. And Aurobindo has often used that image. So here, in the bare space of man's heart, the light of God, she has parted from his dark to test the savour of bare opposites, the taste of the opposites of light and darkness. Both have their own particular taste. Both have their own particular joy. There is a great perverted joy in pain also, which is why we hang on to it. We don't get pain, a great joy in suffering. It gives us a sense of a different special identity, so we don't get rid of suffering so easily. Here, mingling in man's heart, their tones and hues, different stages of love, of pain, of sorrow, of suffering, they get all blended. And so all our stories are a play of all these different forces. Have woven his being's mutable design. Man's nature, man's vital life is a blending of all these hues of love, of joy, of pain, of sorrow. Have woven his being's mutable design. His life, a forward rippling stream in time, obviously. Life is a movement that doesn't go back in time, it goes forward only. His soul, a moving pictures changeful film. Like a film, it's a projection of reality. A film is not reality. Man living only in the vital plane, playing with these emotions and joys and sufferings and delight and failure and love and sorrow. All these things give a special savor, a special flavor to life. But the essence of reality, the truth behind all this, is not experienced because we get carried away by the surface manifestations. When the surface manifestations are complex, then the purpose of the manifestation sometimes is forgotten. The purpose of an experience. Experiences can be complicated, exciting, varied. We get swept away by the drama of all these things. What is behind it all? What is the purpose? That gets forgotten. That is why man lives in a being that is completely chaotic, confused. I don't know who I am. I am the toy of all these forces. They play through me, they play with me. Now this feeling is passing through me, then another feeling, another desire, another drive is moving through me. So his cosmos chaos of personality. The grand creatrix, with her cryptic touch, has turned to pathos and power being's self-dream. Being's self-dream. Your consciousness. Very often, this consciousness is not really established in a firm foundation of truth. It is the plaything of all kinds of forces. What we call a person and his personality. It's very changeable. This person is swept away by a passion and then by another one and then a desire. So this, she has, as if she's enjoying, like a creator, like an artist, playing with many colors, not necessarily finalizing the shape that he wants to give. Made a passion play of its fathomless mystery. Why has this grand creatrix? Because life is a creative energy. This creative energy is projected in the field of our emotions, our passions, of feelings. We have forgotten what we are here for. We get swept away by something that is always like waves that pass on the waters of life. What is beneath sustaining it? But there is joy, there is excitement, there is interest. This is what you call living. If your life is without all these things, you say this is a very dull life. But if there is rising and falling and excitement and pain, victory and defeat, you say this is a fantastic life. But here were worlds. He is passing through this world. Ashwapati is watching this. Ashwapati is not part of this. He is seeing how these forces work. They work on the spirit of man, that kind of spirit which is very, very receptive to these because it is not firmly shaped. Ashwapati himself is completely an instrument of the divine consciousness. But he is a witness. If there is a play, it's also one needs to have a spectator. He is watching. What is the reason for all these things? Why does the divine play with the world of the vital in so many different forms, giving it so many different moments of rise and fall? What is behind all this? He is a seeker of knowledge. He is a seeker of truth. He wants to find out. But here were worlds lifted halfway to heaven. Very great Ananda, but not the highest supreme light. This is the vital world, it doesn't reach the highest. These are called middle worlds. Above the physical world, the mental world, you have there are vital heavens. Every world has its own perfection. Every world has its heaven. These are the middle worlds, where there are gods, powers, gods of music and dance and harmony, of love, of pain, all kinds of different varieties of joy, of desire. They are there. We call them apsaras, gandharvas. That's what the name we give them. They are very attractive, they are very exciting, but to the seeker of the divine, they can make us lose our way. We stop halfway. This is where I want to stop. I don't want to go further. I'm caught by this apsara, for instance. She's so attractive, I don't want to move further. And that is where, for a while, the journey of the soul stops or is misled. This is the game. In a game you lose, in a game you win sometimes. You lose your way in order to find it back again. The veil was there, but not the shadowy wall. Inertia, the solid darkness, that was not there. But it is not the absolute shape of reality. It is a covering. Every expression is a covering. If this world exists, it is part of the divine plan. It must have been made for a reason. So man moves along his path. It never goes straight. It is a winding path. It's a cyclically evolving path. So these worlds, lifted halfway to heaven, in forms not too remote from human grasp. That is why these gods are not very, very difficult for man to touch. We can experience this. The artist does it quite often. The lover does it quite often. The musician does it quite often. Not the thinker. Not the physical man, but that kind of man who is centered in his vital nature. But there is so much variety, so much excitement. In forms not too remote from human grasp, some passion of the inviolate purity. Something of that, because they are all created by the Supreme, these worlds. These forms also are projections of the divine plan. Something of the divine is there in each of them. They are all gods. They are all perfect in their own world. And if I meet one of them and I say, it's so beautiful, I want to stay here. I don't want to move. You get the allegorical story, for instance, of Ulysses. Ulysses, the story is that he has to go back home after the war. He has forgotten his way home. It was 10 years since he has gone back home. So he's sailing on the waters of life, if you like, and stops at different islands. Some of the islands are so attractive, so enjoyable. He doesn't realize they may take him away from his destiny. Sometimes there's a divine messenger who comes to tell him, don't stop here. Just like in man's life. We stop halfway. We see something extremely enjoyable, extremely beautiful, sinless. It has no sense of sin. The sense of wrong is absolutely not there. It's simply the delight of existence. And sometimes you do nothing at all. The island of the lotus eaters, for instance, where you live, where Ulysses says everybody is living in peace, in harmony. You have what you might like very much, no work, nothing, just sleep, just rest, until some kind of message from the God who connects heaven to man, Mercury, comes, tells him, you have to move on. You're not here for this. You have to go further. And then there are others in the journey. He meets different powers of attraction, Scylla, Charybdis, Circe, all there are many stories. They trap the human spirit because Ulysses represents the human spirit, the mental man, the intellectual man. They're trapped. He is the great person, he is actually the victor of the Battle of Troy. Greece won Troy because of Ulysses. And that pride made him to forget his home for a long time. The others all went back. All the other kings, there were 5,000 kings, but he took his time. And on the way back home, he found sometimes very beautiful, attractive beings sitting on the rocks, singing. Scylla, Charybdis, they're singing so beautifully that the sailors forgot to row properly. They were so drawn by the music that the boats would crash on the rocks. So they had to stop. Many of them died. This is an allegory, this is a symbol. Sometimes we are so drawn to things that are emotionally attractive. And you say there's nothing, it's a very beautiful song. You don't realize that these beings are there to make you lose your way. Man's journey is the journey of the soul. And your way is not to stop midway. Your journey has to go further. So he is reminded, fortunately he is very open, he is reminded from time to time, don't stop here. These beings are not going to help you, they're going to harm you. If one gives in to all the attractions of the vital, the pleasures, the enjoyments, on the surface they may seem harmless. On the other hand, they take you away from your contact with the soul. That doesn't mean we have to enter into a world of austerity, not at all. It is not bareness, it is not austerity. What is important is to keep that connection with the source and then take part in everything. In forms not too remote from human grasp, because they resemble the human beings also. Some passion of the inviolate purity, that which cannot be made impure, something of the divine is there, broke through, a ray of the original bliss. You see, everything is some aspect of the supreme creative Ananda. Heaven's joys might have been earth's if earth were pure. The problem is there. If we would stay totally in connection with the source of all purity, which is the divine, which for you could be the mother, stay connected with her. You can take part in everything and not lose that connection. Then you can touch you might say, the hem at least of perfect joy. Heaven's joys might have been earth's. Earth is part of the plan, if earth were pure. But earth has opened herself to all different influences. From below, from all around, from above, so many different forces, so many different egos, so many different movements, that the sense of purity is not singleness. Purity is absolute clarity, connection with the eternal, with the divine. Only then, as Mother describes, purity is that one condition which can be described as sincerity. If your need for the divine is complete, sincere, then and only then are you pure. It is not with the mind that you say, I have not done anything wrong, so why should I be called impure? It has nothing to do with that. There could have reached our divinized sense and heart. You see, it is through the senses that we lose our way, first of all. Man is a sensual being. He lives in touch with the physical world, he connects with the physical external world through the senses. And there is so much discovery for each aspect of the sense. The taste, the sight, the smell, all have their different expressions of perfection. And it can be really so intoxicating that I forget the divine, I get intoxicated by the delight of the senses. And there is something which is part of the divine manifestation, the heart. Again, our heart was not meant to be like a stone, empty of love. No, Mother said, never do that. Your heart is an instrument of love, but not desire. Not that which we call love, which is pleasure, enjoyment, possession. Not that. It is the capacity to feel the divine delight in all things. So there could have reached our divinized sense and heart some natural felicity's bright extreme, some thrill of supernature's absolutes. All strengths could laugh and sport on earth's hard roads and never feel her cruel edge of pain. If we remained constantly pure, we would take pleasure in everything. That is what part of the experiment Mother is doing with us. She's allowed us to take part in all kinds of different activities. But can we make use of each activity as an opportunity for expressing our connection with the divine? Or can we get swept away by the passion and the desire and the attachment? That is the experiment. Experiments may take a long time to be, will finally arrive at a fulfillment. That is why there is, wherever there is an attachment, there is a cruel edge of pain. Like an edge is like a knife, like a blade. It cuts through you. All strengths could laugh and sport on earth's hard roads and never feel her cruel edge of pain. All love could play and nowhere nature's shame. Nature's shame, it is when the mind gets in. And then the word of the ascetic feels that I have moved away from the goal I have put before me. So the ascetic shuts out from himself all relationships with love and joy. And that is part of the, sometimes the discipline the divine also imposes when you're starting the yogic process. Don't get connected, don't get attached to anything. True, because you get trapped in that attachment. Attachment is not love. Love is self-giving. There is no bargain. So that is why that simple world of man, as in many ancient stories, there was no sense of wrongdoing. Self-giving, that is why the shame. When man becomes a thinking person and he starts making different categories of this is right and that is wrong, this is good and that is bad, and when I still can't stop myself from doing the things that I know should not be done, I have a sense of shame. But when I am like just a simple, absolutely a being through whom the mind of the ascetic is not passing, like a small animal. The animal takes delight in his animality, in his body. And there's no sense of wrong, because it's not a mental life. The moment we have a mental life, There are delights, there are pleasures we take, and on the other hand, the mind may step forward and say, you're going astray. You're going away from the path, straight road, the narrow road. It is described as the razor's edge. The blade is very hard. You can't walk on it, you will fall on either side. So the path to the divine is like a razor's edge. It's very difficult. No, the path is full of His grace, the love He has allowed nature to play with us. If we don't have that sense of wrongdoing, that comes from the lower vital, the sense of possession. When that is not there, it's a very simple nature. The animal is like that. That doesn't mean man has to become an animal. Man has to grow above the animal. He can remain simple, he can remain pure, he can be full of self-giving. And because he is attached to his mother, the child is not afraid of anything. The mother's hand is always there. So we have so many little stories also of, say, the child God, like you have Sri Krishna. You have stories of him full of all kinds of things he does that he should not do. We put it like that. He cheats, he steals, he lies, he does all these things, and yet he is the divine. He is the supreme. That delight of experience which is there in all. But for that you have to first be that divine Krishna. Then you can plunge into the darkness and not be darkened. You can plunge in the dirtiest waters and that dirty water will not touch you because you are covered with that consciousness. We do not have that, then it is difficult. We can take part in everything, but if I have the contact and absolute protection of the divine, no harm can touch me. For that I have to have the faith, the self-giving, the trust of my whole being. Then my life can be beautiful. I can participate in all things. It is an experiment that Mother has taken up. It's very difficult. She asks us to take part in everything. In games, in competitions, in plays, all kinds of things that make us feel our own sense of special pleasure in coming first, for instance, or doing something very well, or get caught up in an expression of a play which is outwardly very passionate. How to stay in touch with the divine while you are doing all those things? It's a yogic experience that you have to take up, because she's trying out all these things with us. We do lose our way. We forget. We fall. But if we can all the time, before you start, and at the end of whatever performance you are doing, whether it's a game or a competition or studies, you call and ask for the blessing and the connection, then the protection is always there. But if I have done very well, I am very important, I am very intelligent, I am very clever, I have done this, I have come first, I take joy in my great achievement, my intelligence, then it is my intelligence, my ego, then the divine has been forgotten by me. So the first thing is remember and offer. Not to forget anything of the divine. That's why it's 2 words. Just remember at every moment, remember her, remember him, offer. You can take part in everything, remembering her as if you're holding her with one hand all the time. It is a strong help, not only, it is a test. It is part of the yogic test. Because otherwise, in the world of life, the possibility of going astray away from the purpose of why we are on the earth that purpose is not fulfilled for a long time. That is purity. All love could play, and nowhere nature's shame, the errors, the twisted, the perversities could be completely wiped off if we were all the time aware of the supernature's absolutes. These, and still, but she has tabled her dreams in matter's courts. That is what she has done. Life is often compared to a horse. And if you don't know how to control the horse controls you. It will take you wherever it wants to go. My desire controls me. It pulls me from the right track. My passion draws me in the direction I know I should not do, but I go there. So this is what the vital world has done. This is the fall of life. But it is the field of all manifestation. Without vital energy, nothing can be manifested. If I withdraw from the vital, I come out of manifestation. So there has to be the vital energy. But she has tabled her dreams in matter's courts, and still her doors are barred to things supreme. That's the problem. Because we are trapped in the field of the material manifestation. These worlds could feel God's breath visiting their stops, visiting their tops. On the highest level of the vital, it is very close to the vital heaven, the source of the power that has projected itself from the Supreme. The vital world is a projection of the divine energy. If I go back to the source, I go back to that from which the energy has come, that is the Supreme, the Creator. So you have different images of the divine as the Creator. The divine has projected the universe out of himself. So I go backwards, I go back to that Supreme. These worlds could feel God's breath visiting their tops. Some glimmer of the transcendence hem was there. As if something of that which is above the Supreme is the transcendent. The transcendent is beyond creation, beyond time, beyond space. It is the eternal, it is the infinite. It has no beginning, it has no end. From there comes the origin of manifestation. That is the Supreme. From that origin of manifestation comes this multiplicity, the projection into all the different multiplicity. So you have so many gods, so many forces, so many energies. Sometimes they get interlocked, sometimes they lose their way, sometimes they are beautiful, all kinds of things. This is the whole magic and problem both of the world of life. So if we go back upwards as he's going, Ashwapati is going upwards, some glimmer of the transcendence hem was there. Across the white aeonic silences, the vastness, the infinity, the eternal, immortal figures of embodied joy traversed wide spaces near to eternity's sleep. So you have these highest gods. We have the creator, the preserver, the destroyer. They are embodiments of different aspects of the divine. They have no personal gain. They have no personal attachment to their role. They are simply forces that are working out what the supreme highest Brahman has intended. Earth has to be a projection of the Supreme. That is the ultimate goal, that this physical universe in which we are has to be a kind of a projection of the original divine manifestation that is there latent. It is as if like a creator has his creation inside him before he takes it out and starts building his world. When you want to build a house, The house, that perfect expression of the house is already inside you. Then you start building the house. When you start building the house, you come face to face with difficulties. You may not get the material with which you want to build the house. You may not have the ability with which to build the house. You may not have the patience or the strength to continue for long. So it is like a kind of a play that the divine is asking man to go through. Only man can do this. It's a challenge. Can we grow out of our present state and create and build that world which pre-exists? It exists inside the Supreme Consciousness. And we have been given that task to manifest that consciousness. Immortal figures of embodied joy, these are the visions of these perfect forces, traversed wide spaces near to eternity's sleep. Pure mystic voices in beatitude's hush appeal to love's immaculate sweetnesses, calling his honeyed touch to thrill the worlds, his blissful hands to seize on nature's limbs. That because love is that creative energy. The divine has projected himself into creation, into manifestation. Through what? Through his love. Love is the force of creation, the divine love, without which nothing can really be manifested. It is not love which we understand as love. It is that universal force that has gone forth from the Supreme and is at work in all things. You may call it grace, you may call it wisdom, you may call it knowledge, but the word that contains all of them is love, the divine love. This has to seize on nature's limbs. His sweet, intolerant might of union to take all beings into his savior arms. This is the thing. To accept everything and make each small element also an expression of perfection. Every cell of the body can become an expression of perfection, of the divine. To take all beings into his savior arms, drawing to his pity the rebel and the waif, even those who don't want him, even to them her arms, the mother's arms, are stretched out. You get that later in Savitri in book 10 also. Her mother's arms are stretched towards her rebel sons. There are those powers that are very strong. You may call them demons and asuras. And they have a very strong titanic force that gives them a tremendous ego. So they don't like to surrender. And they are the rebels. But they are the ones who have also the greatest potentialities, powers. If these surrender, they become enormous creative forces. So she's waiting for them to surrender, these huge forces. Sometimes they are small ones. The waif. A waif is one who has a child who has lost his way. We all have lost our way. We don't know exactly where we are heading. To take all beings into his savior arms, drawing to his pity the rebel and the waif, to force on them the happiness they refuse. They don't realize the happiness comes from surrender. And they hate to surrender. That is the thing. So they refuse the happiness. Just like freedom comes only when there is surrender. You are no longer concerned with yourself. You are free. You don't belong to yourself. Then only can you be free. Then only can you be pure. Then only can you be happy. A chant hymeneal to the unseen divine, a flaming rhapsody of white desire, lured an immortal music into the heart and woke the slumbering ear of ecstasy. This is the original creative force, Ananda, excitement. The supreme Ananda, ecstasy. It's so absolutely intoxicating. Hymeneal is the adjective of marriage. Marriage in the sense of blending. Hymen is the god of marriage. So, the wedding of earth and sky. And this is part of the spiritual vision in many, many different, you might say, mystical contexts. You have the great ascetic consciousness, the supreme Shiva, and the Mother Earth that is climbing up from below, from the mountain, the daughter of the mountain. So earth and sky, or as the Greeks call it, Uranus and Gaia. Earth and sky, always these two have to blend, have to meet. Man has not to leave the earth. He has to manifest heaven on the earth. That is the role given to man. And that world now he reaches. He sees this. One drew a large, unburdened, spacious breath, unburdened with dull, egoistic pride, which is there if you have a very strong life force, you are very proud of yourself. There's no ego for him. That level of consciousness Ashwapati has reached, and the heart sped from beat to rapturous beat. Every experience was delight. The voice of time sang of the immortal's joy, an inspiration and a lyric cry. The moments came with ecstasy on their wings. This is the glory of life. It is there you feel all the delight of manifestation, the delight of experience. Beauty unimaginable moved heavenward. Because that is the whole thing. The sense of beauty is in form. Beauty is perfection of the manifestation of the divine in form, not necessarily physical form. It can be a form of feeling, it can be a form of thought, it can be a form of character, it can be a form of expression. Form. But it has to be given a form. That is what is perfection. If there is in manifestation, if there is no beauty, there is no manifestation. It is the presence of the divine in form, in manifestation. So beauty unimaginable, because it is beyond all that we can at present conceive, that perfection moved heavenward, absolved from boundaries in the vasts of dream. As if boundaries is a crime, limit. Absolved is when you are freed from guilt. Guilt has been. When I think beauty is this, that is not beautiful. Right is this, that is wrong. I have made boundaries. We feel comfortable within boundaries. We feel that if I have a certain framework, rules, laws, right, wrong, it is easier for me to function. When all these boundaries are gone, there is nothing but that absolute, the delight of manifestation. Absolved from boundaries in the vasts of dream, the cry of the birds of wonder called from the skies to the deathless people of the shores of light. Birds, very often, Sri Aurobindo uses them for the express to symbolize the spirit. The spirit is within all things. In all of us, there is a spirit. In most of us, that spirit, which is a bird, is caged. It is within, deep inside us, behind a cage, behind a kind of a thick door of unconsciousness and ignorance. We have to break down that cage, allow that bird to fly, to open our natures. We can become part of the divine manifestation. In fact, if you look at I think in one of Mother's works, she describes her own signature like a bird, a descending bird. It is the image of the spirit. Okay, we stop here.